Hello, it's Sonia here with the Pretty Stitch. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time joining me, I'm so happy to have you here. So today I am going to continue just a tiny little series. It's just going to be a two-part series on knitting cables. So I have got my knitting needles here and we are going to be knitting a braided cable. And the reason why I chose this one is my previous video was demonstrating the technique cable knit front, cable knit back. And to knit the cable braid, you use both of those techniques because the one sample, the one swatch we did was cable knit back, and the whole thing was just made cable knit back. And then the other one was cable knit front, and the whole thing was made cable knit front. So for this one, you're going to be doing both techniques to create the braid. Okay, so let's get started. So as you can see, I've already cast it on. I cast it on 15 stitches, so we're just making a swatch. This is worsted weight yarn, and as I suggested in my previous video, and if you haven't seen that, I will link it above in the little eye. It suggests types of yarn to use when knitting cables and different tools that you can use. So to knit these cables, I'm just going to use another double pointed needle. That's what I'm using here to knit this swatch up. So let's get started. So this will be an 8-row repeat to knit this braided cable, and we're going to work row 1. So we are going to purl 3 stitches to get started. Okay, so I've worked 3 purl stitches. So now we are going to knit 9 stitches. And the 9 stitches will represent the cable pattern. And this is row 1, and this is the right side. So when you're working your cables, it will be an odd row. And then the wrong side will be all the even rows. Okay, so I've knitted 9 stitches, so now we're going to finish up this row. We're going to purl the last 3, and then row 1 will be complete. Okay, so there is row 1, and this is the right side. Of course, it doesn't look like much, and the rule of thumb with cables is it will look worse before it looks better. So when you're first starting out, the first couple rows, it's going to look a little bit of a hot mess, but as you get farther in the pattern, then the cables start to pop out. So row 2 and all of the other odd rows for the stitch pattern, we're just working even. So in all the knit stitches, you're going to knit, and all the purl stitches, you're going to purl. So our first 3 stitches will be knit. And then our next 9 stitches will be purl, and our last 3 stitches will also be knit. Okay, so I completed row 2, the rest of it off camera. So we've knit 3, purled 9, and knit 3. And so now we're ready for row 3, and we are going to get ready to do some cabling. So our first 3 stitches we are going to purl. Okay, so I've got my yarn in knit position because we're going to be knitting, and so the next 9 stitches are going to represent our braided cable. So to get started, we are going to knit 3 stitches. Okay, so I've knit 3. Now I'm going to grab my double point, and you could use a cable needle or a crochet hook as I showed in the previous video. And we're going to slide off 3 of these stitches onto my needle here. And we're going to stick them in the back, as I like to call cable knit back. And now we're going to knit these 3 stitches here while those ones on the needle are going to just chill out a little bit for the time being. So we're just going to knit these 3. Okay, so now we've got to pick up these guys on the other needle. I'm just going to slide that so they don't fall off. So it's a little fiddly, but not too bad. So now we need to knit these guys off of the needle. Okay, set that aside. And now we're going to finish up our row and just purl the last 3 stitches. And row 3 is complete. So when you're doing the braided cable, it is a 2-parter as far as to achieve the braided look. Okay, so there's row 1. As I said, it doesn't look very cute. It looks messy. And that is pretty typical when you're knitting cables or even crocheting cables as well. They just look messy. Alright, so let's work row 4. Row 4, we're just working even. So in every knit stitch, you're going to knit. In every purl stitch, you are going to purl. So 3 knit stitches, 9 purl stitches, 3 knit stitches. So I'll do that off camera and I'll meet you back. Okay, so I just completed row 4 here. So this is the wrong side. So now we're going to work row 5. And still, she's not looking great. But it'll come together. So for row 5, we're just going to work even. So that means we're going to work in every purl stitch, you're going to purl, and every knit stitch, you're going to knit. So we're going to have 3 purl stitches, 9 knit stitches, 3 purl stitches. And then for row 6, we're going to do a repeat of what we've been doing for the wrong side. So you're going to do 3 knit stitches, 9 purl stitches, 3 knit stitches. And then I will meet you back for row 7 and we'll do more cabling. Okay, so now we are ready for row 7, and I promise this will turn into a braid. It doesn't look like it right now, but it will. So we're on a right side row. So to get started, we are going to purl the first 3 stitches. Okay, so I'm going to get my yarn into knit position here, and now we are going to get ready to do some more cabling. So I'm grabbing my needle, I'm going to pull off 3 stitches and put them onto my needle here. And now we're going to do cable knit front. So these guys are just going to hang out in the front, and we're going to knit the next 3 stitches. Okay, so I'm just going to slide them down so they don't slide off. Alright, so now we have to knit these guys that are on the other needle here. And now we're going to continue across. So we're going to knit 3 and purl the last 3. Okay, so there we go, row 7. So it's sort of looking braidish, like braid-esque a little bit there. But row 8 is going to be the last of our repeat, so you're going to work even. So the 3 knit, 9 purl, 3 knit. And then for this stitch pattern, to achieve the braid, you are just going to be repeating rows 1 through 8 until your swatch is long enough. So row 1, and I can put it up on the screen, is purl 3, knit 9, purl 3. Row 2, we're working even, so you're knitting in all the knit stitches, purling in all the purls. Row 3 is where you work the cable. So after you've done your first 3 purls, you're going to knit 3, and you're going to slide 3 stitches off and cable knit back, and then knit the 3, and then knit the ones that are on your extra needle and purl the rest. And then row 4 and 5, we're working even, and row 6, we're also working even. Then row 7 is going to be the row we just did. Purl 3, slide the 3 on the needle, cable knit front, so you're going to have that in the front, and then knit 3, and then knit the ones off the needle, and then complete the rest of the row. So I'm going to work a couple more rows so we can see this braid. So trust me, it will happen, and that's why I said you have to have a couple rows in, so then the cable really starts to pop out. Okay, so here we go. I have worked a couple rows of the 8-row repeat, and now you can clearly see the braid. So as I said, trust the process. You got to give it some time for the pattern to show up, but eventually it does. And I think I always love that when all of a sudden everything comes together and you're like, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like. And this is a fun cable that you can incorporate in other projects as well. So if you were just making a very simple blanket, let's say you were making a knit blanket that was just like a ribbed type one of two knit stitches, 2 purl stitches, you could actually pop in a cable stitch like in the middle of it as a little design element. You know, you might have to just refigure some numbers, but it shouldn't be too difficult. And you could certainly use this in a variety of projects besides blankets. But I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial, this cable series I did. And if you did, please like and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.